Hi everybody, welcome back to the What Now Workshop. Today I'm going to be building another shelf, but this is going to be a type of cubby shelf that's going to hang on a wall. What it's going to be for is for some toy monster trucks that I've been purchasing for my son, and my son's been collecting since he was about 2 years old, maybe 3 years old. Um, right now they're sitting in a basket or a box, and I thought, it'd be really nice to be able to display these. So I decided, with his help, that we would come up with a plan to build a shelf, and that's what we're going to do. So let me show you what we're doing. So here is a crude sketch of what we're doing. It's going to have 100 spaces for monster trucks to sit in. And these spaces are really, really small. I mean, we're only using 2.5-inch wide wood by 3/4. Each little cubby is only going to be 3 3/4 wide and only 3.5 inches tall. So what we're doing is we're putting these little monster trucks on this shelf. Now, my son has been collecting these, like I said, since he was about 2 years old or so. Every time I go to AutoZone or Checker Auto Parts, well, actually it's called O'Reilly's now, sorry. But anytime I went there, if I saw one that he didn't have, I would buy one. And now he's probably got upwards of 60 or 70 of these things. So what I've got is I've got our top and our bottoms, or I should say our top, bottom, and 2 sides. And what I've done is I've made little marks on here. And again, you might be able to see, so this is going to be the side because that's how tall it is. And I believe this one is the width part of it. Yeah, so that's how they'll sit. They'll sit in between these shelves. So every one of these marks, which I have numbered and labeled, is going to be notched out. And I'm going to be using a dado set on my table saw to cut these. I'm going to cut out 1/4 of an inch. And then once everything's cut out, I'll build the exterior frame. Then I will be cutting the interior parts, which will be these pieces. Again, notching each side 1/4 of an inch. So there's a lot of dado work that needs to be done with this. Might seem a little complicated, but I figured I would start with the outside first and then start working my way through the middle. So it might take a little bit of time, but again, I'd rather have these monster trucks displayed somewhere versus sitting in a bucket or sitting in a box. As always in the What Now Workshop, we ran into a slight problem, and I had to take a minor detour to make this work. First of all, I'm using an old table saw. It's a Rockwell. It's probably 50 years old. One problem is, and the reason why I'm using this is because my dado blade set will not work on my DeWalt table saw. So I have to use this table saw. The other problem with this table saw is that the guard that goes in here will not work with a dado set. However, it is wide enough to make a dado set, or to attach a dado set, which is what I've got here, which is 2 blades and then 2 cutting blades that are staggered. Put the dado set together, put the blades in, etc. The other issue that I ran into was the fact that I am trying to use a miter gauge to run this through. And when I was running it through, it's not quite sturdy enough, but also the excessive amounts of sawdust that are flying out of this hole was pure blinding. I mean, So I didn't really know what to do other than to maybe make a sled. And if any of you know what a sled is, I kind of threw this together the other day. And what this does is it sits right in these grooves. Okay, so it's just a piece of wood on the bottom, a guard on the back, and a guard on the front. And I kind of painted these red so I know where not to put my fingers. Although I don't have the blades high enough to actually cut through, but it's screwed along the bottom. It's still gonna stay intact. Well, as long as you don't cut entirely through it, I should say that. But in this instance, I'm only going 1/4 of an inch for what I need to do, which is 1/4 of an inch past this piece. So anyway, I made this sled. Fits in the grooves of the table saw, slides back and forth. That's all I need it to do. And what I did was set my piece in here and I ran it through like so. And then because I cannot make this dado set any more than 5/8 of an inch, because otherwise the bolt that holds the blades on won't attach, and I'm notching out for 3/4, I have to kind of line this up with the cut, make a pass, move it over, make another pass. The other problem that I found was, even after I did this, I'm still getting inundated with sawdust. It's still flying at my face. And again, with an old table saw, it doesn't have a port for a shop vac. So I made something else. In order to try to combat the sawdust problem, I made this box. Now, I didn't actually make the box. I just took an old box. I took one of the attachments, shoved it into the box, and then taped it, and then put the hose on it. So technically speaking, this could come apart. So basically I have an attachment stuck in a box, and then I just attach the hose to it like so, and then set that over the top. I got to kind of maneuver this hose a little bit. And then what I did was I took these little clamps that I've got and I clamped the cardboard box to it. And I used the smallest clamps that I could find for this because I don't need anything big. All right. And then this one goes along here. Now, this did not solve the sawdust problem entirely. However, what it did do was it allowed the sawdust that's coming out of here. Some of it's still coming out at me. That's fine. It's not a lot. The majority of it is falling on the table, as you can see right here. And some of it is falling on the floor in front of me, but it's not blowing all over the place. And that's kind of what the box is for, is to take the excess particles that would be flying around in the air and get those out, but allowing the big stuff to fall on the table. Now, I'm still not happy that as soon as I start running this through, it's still flying at me. But you know what? I don't think there's anything I can do about it other than finish this project and possibly get rid of this old dinosaur of a table saw. So, but that's the detour that we had to take. Again, I just try to find ways to make things easier, make things work a little bit better. This is not the greatest setup. I just threw this sled together the other night. I probably could have done it a little bit better, but I just used stuff that I had laying around anyway. All right, let me show you how this sled works. First of all, some of the benefits to having a sled is that you can keep your piece that you're cutting nice and flat, straight and square, and you can hold on to it without risk of cutting your fingers. Obviously, if you keep your hands away from the danger zone. And you can make some nice straight cuts with it. The other benefit is that you really, with smaller pieces of wood, it'll prevent it from moving around. Whereas if you're trying to do it by hand, running it through, your fingers are going to be too close to the blade, and that's not good. Accidents do happen. So you want to try to be as safe as possible, obviously. So I'm going to fire this thing up and I'm going to show you what we're doing. We're actually notching out this side. Actually, not that, but here, here, here. But I made marks on the other side so I know exactly where to put the line, which is at that cut. Again, I'm notching 3/4, but my blade width is only 1/2 inch, which is right here. So I put that on that line, run a pass, move it over to where this line matches up with the other side, make another pass, and we've got our 3/4. I am going to warn you that this is going to be extremely loud. This is an old table saw, very, very loud. So if you need to adjust your volume now. And of course, like I said, that was loud, but I've got a test piece to make sure that we've got 3/4, which we do. That one will need to be sanded out a little bit. That one's okay. So that is how we do that. Again, I know it's a crude system. The sled is a great idea. I actually want to make a couple more for my other saw. I just threw this together for this application, but I think I might do it a little bit differently on the next one. And then this stupid box with the vacuum. Obviously, it's not helping with the amount of sawdust that's collecting on the table, but it is keeping it out of the air at least. So at least I accomplished something. So anyway, we've got our 4 pieces cut, our 2 sides, our top and our bottom. Now we just need to do the same thing with all the middle pieces.